Well, you talked about in one of your books that you said there's no doubt in my mind that many of the mob bosses who were successful in organized crime would have been equally as successful as CEOs.
Oh, no doubt. My father, I think, could have been a successful guy. He had a good mind. Persico was a very smart guy. If he would have put his talent in another way, I think so. I mean, just, unfortunately, these were guys on the street. I wouldn't necessarily say that about John Gotti. I don't think he had a good grasp of business. Sammy, obviously, he was a good businessman, and people knew that. He was smart in that regard. So there were a lot of guys that were successful on the street that if they would have put their talents legitimately, I think they would have done well. Now, that's not the rule. A lot of guys on the street that they just couldn't earn any kind of money anyway. We had to support them. So there is a definite separation there. Look, the reason that they kept me where they kept me because I had a head for business. I was able to earn for the family. And therefore, a lot of the grunt work, a lot of the other work, they didn't want that from me. No, you keep bringing money into us. We'll let these guys that are doing nothing, that we're supporting, let them do the heavy work in that regard. And, that's kind of the distinction in that life.
And you talked about in that same passage that these mob bosses, they're required to live a lifestyle where every day presents a challenge just to survive, where every friend is your potential enemy, where a board meeting just might prove to be your last encounter on earth. And that really kind of puts it in perspective as someone who has a company and has company meetings and so forth. I don't look at the people around me, okay, if this meeting goes bad, I might get killed the next day. So it's not quite as serious to me as I'm speaking, but I guess in order to keep this type of organization where, yeah, these guys might all turn against you, whether they want your spot or whether they're working with the police and so forth, you actually have to be respectful, you have to be polite, and you have to really use these principles to a very elevated degree, or else things might go really bad really quickly. And I can see how that could apply to a regular business as well.
Vlad, there's always somebody in the room that either wants what you have, that doesn't like you, that's trying to undermine you or would undermine you in some way if they could. I don't care if it's your best friend or you think it's your best friend. That's the nature of that life. You always have to be aware of who you're dealing with, and that life is like a wheel. It turns. The guy that's on the bottom today could be your boss or could be on the top, the next day. So you always had to be very careful, who you might offend, who you might say something wrong about. And I think a lot of times in business, it's the same way. People resent you if you're the owner. People that work with you. Look, it's happening in our government. People are resentful for Trump for whatever reason. They may be right, they may be wrong. I don't know. But he's got people around him all the time he's got to be aware of and who may undermine him. It's the same thing in business. Somebody wants your spot, somebody wants to make a little money, somebody's resentful of what you did, and you try your best not to give them an opening. Now, I've seen that in business many times. I've seen people try to, undercut and undermine. I have people come to me that are working, for their boss that are looking to steal money from them. That happened to me quite a bit, when I was on the street. So, you just got to be very skillful in how you deal with people, very guarded, no matter what lifestyle you're in.
I agree. I've had people within my own company that try to destroy the company from within, unsuccessfully. But it's crazy how you're paying a person and yet they're trying to hurt you as they're being paid. It's kind of a crazy concept, but at least they weren't trying to kill me, but it's the same type of thing.
Exactly. In our life, you can get killed. Listen, I'm a person of faith now. There's no hiding that. I've seen it happen in the church where people, and it's happened many times, where churches split because one is undermining the pastor and so on and so forth. It happened in my own family with my wife's brother. So, it's human nature. So whatever it is that you're doing, you have to be guarded. On the street, it's more serious because if you offend somebody, you do something wrong. Like Paul Castellano, he didn't have a lot of people like him because they thought he was greedy. He didn't make people around him make money. So you give a guy like that or somebody an opportunity, to undermine you or to take you out, you're going down. That's why when Gotti took out Castellano, there weren't a lot of people crying over it, because he wasn't well liked for that reason, you know. So and if there were a lot of people crying about it, Gotti would have paid the price, but he didn't, and I think that's the reason.